How's it going, Facebook? I am sitting here with my amazing mom. My name is Danielle Love. I am a daughter, a wife. Oh, now Facebook is saying something to me and I don't know what it's saying, so please bear with us because we are not usual Facebook live streamers. So I'm a daughter, I am a wife, I am an entrepreneur, and maybe you know me from my 11-year career as a diabetes health coach, a life coach, an author, many other things that my entrepreneurial journey has brought me to do. But today I'm here as one of my favorite things to be as an interviewer and just to chat with my mom, because people out there, many of you know that my mom was diagnosed with cancer in 2019, and I'm going to let her I'm going to ask her questions and we're going to talk about it because there's been a lot of talk about it. Hi, Janelle. There's been a lot of talk about her healing journey and the way that we interact as a family, as human beings, our relationship as mother and daughter. And so I want to bring her to you in a more real, upfront way. And we're thinking about coming on and doing this pretty regularly. So we're actually still thinking about a title for it. So if you have any thoughts about what we need to call this, please feel free to drop anything in the comments or let us know that you're here. But I'm going to let my mom kind of chat and you give a little introduction, who she is and what she's all about. And then I'm going to start asking her some questions and hopefully we'll learn some stuff together and feel a little bit better about life in general.
I'm Gail, and I'm Danielle's mom, and that's been the greatest event of my life. And I'm very proud of her and all of her accomplishments. And I am happy to join her in this new endeavor and chat, which we do all the time. We have a very close relationship, and I couldn't ask for a better daughter, and I will cry.
Oh, listen.
So this is real.
Yeah, this is a space where all emotions are honored, where crying is welcomed. I've been teaching emotional intelligence for 11 years now, and I think one of the largest societal problems that we have is our inability to sit with and process emotions, and we see that as weakness. And so we might be crying up in here, we might be laughing up in here, we might be cursing up in here. Like, this is a very free space. There's no parameters, there's no structure around this. This is us actually just chatting. So feel free to cry.
Hi, Brandon.
So Brandon a day. Hi, Brandon.
Oh my God, it's been a long time.
This is another person from our lives who we haven't spoken to or seen in a long time, but you know, good friends and good humans stay connected through the sands of clock time. We won't even get into that right now, but continue.
Okay, so anyway, where do I start? I don't want to tell you my whole life story because there's way too much of it. I'm going to be 70 next month, which I can hardly believe, because in my heart and mind, I feel like I'm in my 20s, literally, even though I have this cancer diagnosis. It has not really altered my spirit. Let's just put it that way.
Amen.
I worked very hard my whole life. My husband and I had a business where I ran the business, a plumbing and heating contractor business, and that was the first half of my life. And then when I lost my husband very suddenly, 1 week after his 55th birthday and 1 day after Danielle's 12th birthday, that was a huge turning point in our lives. And at that time I had to start a new career, and that took a little while. I went to some classes and I ended up getting a job at our electric company and an executive assistant, and I really loved working there for the first 12 years of my job. And then I was transferred to a different location, and the last 6 years were not quite as happy and wonderful, but it was a good experience.
And we might also mention that maybe those years that weren't so great at her job, we've kind of done some work to uncover that they may have contributed to her development of this cancer.
No doubt.
No doubt.
I 100% believe that.
Okay.
Stress was a major factor. As a matter of fact, if you look up causes of pancreatic cancer, you'll see that stress is the number 2 cause. The first one being smoking, which I never did. So,
but let's be fully transparent.
I never smoked cigarettes.
No, but that's not it too. Yes, we can talk about smoking weed all day, and we can get to that. But My mom's mom, my grandmom, who I never met, smoked while my mom was
Absolutely.
while she
She
was
was a chain
pregnant.
smoker.
And then my
And my
dad
father.
and her father and my dad, who passed away, smoked for their entire relationship. So she was receiving secondhand smoke of cigarette smoke for the majority of her life.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
yeah, so yep.
So anyway, where was I? So yeah, I was just telling you my background. So luckily, my company that I worked for did give good benefits and a pension, which is very rare these days. And I was able to retire in March of 2018, which was the greatest day. And I have never had 1 minute's regret about it. I never want to work again. And I've gotten so good at doing nothing. And it's really fortunate that I have that opportunity, that I can concentrate all my efforts on my healing journey.
And I would also add that my opinion about her labeling of doing nothing is what I would refer to as an extraordinarily valuable skill that most of us do not have, which is simply being.
Yeah.
She's excellent at being. And as a society, we have been so indoctrinated to value ourselves with our productivity and our worth. So we're always worrying about do this again, and do this or else you're going to be valueless or worthless. My mom never subscribed to that, and she passed that on to me. So that's why when I see people like grinding and working themselves to the bone, it's legitimately white supremacist patriarchal oppression systems that just value they commoditize human labor as value and worth. So anyway, you're going to hear me get passionate about a lot of things because I'm passionate about a lot of things. But nonetheless, my mom's excellent at being. And so that's one of the things that she's taught me the most, and that I hope that she can impart onto you, just being in her aura and her energy, that you'll have more of a sense of just being able to breathe and be one with the nature and energy around you. And that actually makes you more valuable than any productivity that can ever happen.
Yeah, and even though I worked very hard for my career, I was always good at getting into my own personal space. I always took books in nature, and I didn't call it formal meditation back in the day, but for me, it always was a form of meditation, just getting out there and being by myself and just taking in nature and appreciating all of the things that life had to give. So that was my philosophy of life, and now I can really live into it more than ever.
Yeah.
So we'll get to my cancer diagnosis, because I know this is kind of the topic of the day. I said I did retire in 2018, and up until then and throughout my whole life, my number one passion has been to travel. I love to travel, and I've done as much as I can, and I've been to a lot of places.
She's the queen of wanderlust. Not just travel, but like legitimately, like, we'll call one day and be like, hey, I'm on the road and I don't know where I'm going, but I'll let you know when I get there. And I'm like, okay, be safe and let me know when you're going to get there. Oh, I'm at Shenandoah National Park. And they're like, okay, like, let me know. Like, so like, she is the queen of wanderlust. It's in her DNA. It's in her astrological chart, as Janelle, my amazing astrology queen, would say. And so that would be probably, my mom's reading comments, so this is fun because she's not used to being on Facebook Live
not
either.
at all. I'm not technological at all, so this is a very new experience for me, but I love to talk to Danielle, and we do that all the time. So it's nothing. So okay, let's get up to the let's
just ask. I'll ask you. You were diagnosed in October or November of 2019.
Okay.
I think it was the end of October. But what were you doing the week before you were diagnosed?
Okay, so my wedding anniversary is October 22nd, 1972. And my husband and I always would take a vacation in October to celebrate our wedding anniversary. And after he died, I continued to do that on my own, and I have no problem with traveling on my own. I've done it many times in all kinds of places, and I really enjoy it. And you know, you don't have anybody else's agenda to worry about. You just do what you want when you want, and
I.e. being.
I love that. And so I've spent a month in Maui as a bucket list trip after I retired. That's my favorite place in the world. I've been there 5 times and can't wait to go back whenever I could possibly ever feel comfortable getting on a plane again, but that's a whole nother story.
That's another day for another topic. Yes.
But anyway, the point is that was a fabulous month. Danielle and Alexis came and stayed with me for part of the time, and then I was on my own for a couple weeks, rented a fabulous condo right on the beach. I mean, it was 25 steps from my door to the ocean, and it was just paradise. For me, that is utopia. So I'm definitely going to get back there as ASAP. Anyway, so the October of 2019, kind of last minute, I wanted to do something to celebrate the anniversary week. Didn't really have any special plans, and I had Finger Lakes on my list of places that I've wanted to go for so many years.
And the Finger Lakes are in upstate New York.
Yeah. And we live in Pennsylvania, so it's a 5-hour drive. And I don't really know why I never got there before. It was just like there were so many other places that I wanted to go. But I thought, you know what, I'm just going to get in the car and drive up there. And I did go online like maybe one day ahead of time, and I made reservations at a lakefront little motel just for the person. I didn't know what was going to be when I got there. So I did, and I got on the road and I drove up there, and it was fabulous. It was just beautiful. It was the time of the year where all the leaves were changing, and the ride up was gorgeous with woods and farmlands and everything. And I love just taking road trips anywhere. And so got there. The place where I stayed was fabulous, right in front of Lake Seneca. And I mean, also right, you know, it was right in front of the lake, and it was just so beautiful and peaceful. And I felt fabulous. I mean, I felt at that time that I was probably at the top of my health. I mean, you know, I've never been a crazy exerciser, but I always did exercise. And of course, with all of Danielle's advice and wisdom, I tried to eat healthy. And
she did more than try. She's very not self-deprecating. That's not the right word, but she doesn't give herself enough credit. Like, because when she say she hasn't always been an avid exerciser, but like she has been, because my whole life she's always taken walks. And to me, walking is the most underrated form of exercise that exists. It is so good for exercise. And so she's always taken walks on a very, very regular basis. So
when I say that, I just mean formal type of exercise that people time themselves or have certain things.
Yeah, we don't do regular parameters in this family.
We're kind of outside the box.
We do non-traditional familying.
So anyway, I was up there. I was loving it. I was hiking in Watkins Glen State Park, which is a beautiful park with lots of waterfalls and very rocky and steep inclines. And I was like just enjoying, you know, doing my thing there, and
all by yourself.
All by myself. And I felt fabulous. I felt peak. And I was there for like 4 days. I stayed at a different place the second night, another place up the road on a different part of the lake, and just enjoyed everything about it. Walking, hiking, just doing nothing, enjoying nature. I got up at sunrise and watched the sun come up over the lake, and it was just incredible, and all those things. So I loved it. It was great. I had a fabulous time. I came home the end of the week, and I was home. Everything was good. And I was sitting in my living room watching TV on Saturday evening, and I got this weird pain in the middle of, right here, kind of in the middle of the breast area. Came and went, almost like a contraction, for a good little while. And at first it wasn't too bad, and then it started getting worse, and it wasn't going away. And at like 11 o'clock at night, I was ready to go to bed, but I thought, maybe this is my heart. I probably shouldn't go to sleep. And I took myself to the emergency room at the hospital, and they immediately did a whole heart workup, because that was the location of the pain, and everything came out great. I mean, things were fine with my heart. I had the electrocardiogram, and they did some other tests, and everything was fine, but the pain was still there.
And they gave you something for the pain?
They started to give me something for the pain. I don't know what it was, and it wasn't doing anything. And then by the time it was getting worse, they finally gave me morphine, which I have to recommend highly.
This is my mom. Listen, she is not recommending that you take morphine.
No.
Let me be clear. We are not doctors. Let me put up. We are not doctors, and she is not recommending that you take morphine. Oh my God.
If you have bad pain, it'll help. That's all I'm saying.
Wow. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, so by the time they were done with everything and the pain finally went away, it was like 2:00 in the morning, and they said, well, we want you to stay the night, and we want to have a cardiologist look at you in the morning. And I said, okay, fine. So we did that. Cardiologist came in the morning. Everything was good. Did some more testing before, I left, and she said everything looks fine. She just made me promise to come into the office and do a stress test, which I've done before, and I had no problem with that. And I said, yeah, fine. And I went home, and I was fine. And I was fine for another week, a full week, nothing wrong.
No pain again.
No pain. Everything was fine. The next Saturday night, same thing. Sitting there watching TV, the pain comes back. And I thought to myself, well, I was just there a week ago. They told me everything is fine. I'm not going back and spend another night in the hospital. And then it's just kept coming, and it was getting worse. And I thought, well, maybe I better go back. And
you didn't go back on Saturday night, though.
Yeah, I did.
Oh yeah, so you slept over, and then I came the next day. Okay.
And so I went back, and finally they did a CAT scan, which showed tumors in.
Yeah, and I kind of, is it okay if I jump in and share? Okay, so so she had texted me about the pain and told me how high it was, and of course I recommended that she go back to the emergency room, and then I went there, and they were all discharging her and like not saying anything about the tumors, just to be clear. Not like the hospital staff came in and said, oh, we found that you have a tumor on your pancreas. Nothing like that. I actually had to ask the nurse if I could have a printout of all of the tests that they ran while they were there, because one of the things I do for a living is I help people interpret their blood work results to get very specific about the care that they need for themselves, because that's one of my specialties. So I knew that at least if I had the blood work to look at, I might be able to see something. So as soon as they gave me the blood work, we're actually getting ready to check out. Like, she's getting her clothes on, she's gathering her things up, and I'm looking at it, and I see her white blood cell count, which is not where it needed to be. And then I see the CAT scan results that the technician or whomever reads the visuals, saying that she had mass on her pancreas and also lesions on her liver. And I looked at the nurse and I said, so she has cancer then? And she's like, well, what we're going to recommend is that you make an appointment with an oncologist as soon as possible. So it was almost like, not almost like, I'm not even going to get into how effed up the medical system in this country is, because that's, again, we'll do another episode about that at another time. But they were going to like basically let her go and not even tell her that she had cancer. They were just going to say, hey, we recommend that you see an oncologist. So I'm not really throwing shade right now. What I'm doing right now is just trying to reiterate that we as patients are our own health advocates, and that we need to ask for information, and because a lot of times they're not going to be forthcoming with it, which I just thought was really interesting. And so essentially, I knew she had cancer before she did. And I'm sitting here in the hospital room reading this paper like, oh shit, my mom has pancreatic cancer. Now I'm going to tell her, fuck, like for real. Like, so it's just really, I'm just sharing my experience about it as well. And then we went home and we pondered it because it was Sunday.
I mean, seriously, it was like so out of the blue. It was nothing in the world I would have ever expected. And literally, I have to say, this is the weirdest part about it. I got the pain those 2 times. They didn't catch it the first time. So if I wouldn't have gotten the second pain, who knows what would have happened.
That pain was gifted divinely.
And then after I started my treatment, which was immediately the next week, I never had the pain again. Never. And that was my biggest fear, because my sister died of colon cancer, and she lived for many years in intensive pain, got addicted to pain medicine, and it was a horrible, horrible thing that I saw as an experience with cancer, and I feared that so much. And so I'm grateful every single day that I'm not in pain. And so we went to make an appointment, and luckily we were able to get an appointment with the oncologist right away. And we went to the hospital, and where the
I don't just want to say I don't think it was luckily. I think that when somebody is diagnosed with possibly stage 4 pancreatic cancer, they move them up the queue. I mean, at least that's what it seems like.
Yeah, you would hope, but
Yeah.
you know, I don't depend on the medical industry
right.
to do anything right.
Yeah, I
so.
hear what you're saying, but yeah, there was an urgency behind the scheduling on the medical side.
So we went into the doctor's office. Danielle was with me, and this was pre-COVID, so we were actually allowed to be in there in person and have somebody with me as an advocate, which is the greatest thing that I've had all along with this cancer, to have Danielle as my medical advocate, because as soon as the doctors communicate with her, they realize that she's medically intelligent and she knows what she's talking about. And most of them will, you know, communicate with her like a peer, and I, to a certain extent, and I appreciate that very much. So my doctor is an Indian woman.
She's amazing.
Love her.
She is incredible.
The minute we had the visit and I sat down with her, I just felt totally comfortable with it. She, you know, explained what was going to happen and what was the recommended treatment, and it was chemo. And fortunately, I think, no surgery. She said surgery wasn't an option and radiation wasn't necessary. And those are the two things that were the ones that gave my sister the most after effects, which were terrible. And I mean, I know chemo is no picnic either. I wasn't happy about that, but I didn't know what to really expect at the time. So she said, you know, I understand this is all new and, you know, shocking, and, you know, you're welcome to get a second opinion. And we live right outside of Philadelphia, and then
I live inside of Philadelphia.
Well, oh yeah.
She lives outside of Philadelphia.
Not far outside. So anyway, the point is I'm in the suburban area. You know, Philadelphia has all these world-renowned hospitals and medical centers, and they're always advertising the best cancer care and this and that and the other thing. And at first I thought maybe I would want to, you know, check one of those out, but I felt so comfortable. And this hospital where Dr. Sanjay is 10 minutes from my house. It's a personalized atmosphere. I have the same chemo nurses all the time. It's like a family almost there. It's just so different from what I've heard from people who go into Philly for their treatment. And it's, you know.
Well, I mean, going into Center City, Philadelphia.
I mean, just that is terrible. The traffic and the parking, and it's impersonal.
And listen, just so anybody who's watching knows, we love Philadelphia.
Oh, yeah.
We love the city. Like, I still live here. But no matter how you cut it, to me, it's like a little bit smaller version of going into New York City, which no matter how you cut it, it's like, it's a lot of energy. It's a lot of frenetic movement. It's a lot of traffic. It's a lot of human people just all around, buzzing around. And for healing, that oftentimes is not necessarily facilitating that energy.
No, it's very stressful. I've spoken to people who have gone there for treatment, and they talk about how impersonal it is, and they just didn't feel comfortable there, and people have left treatment there to go other places. So I was very confident in my decision to stay at the hospital that was close to my home, and I have been undergoing very intensive chemotherapy for 18 months now, without a break, which is very unusual because a lot of people can't tolerate that for all that amount of time, and with very few side effects that I also am amazingly grateful for, because I know and I see what a lot of other people are going through, and I just feel strong and able to withstand this. And I think it has a lot to do with mental health.
It's not just a thought. It 100% has to do with mental health. And so mental health is something that's also something I've been working with people with trauma resolution, with inner child work, with shadow work. These are things that I do in my life coaching. And my mom has been a party to that in my group coaching program that I ran for 2 years. She was on my team of people every 2 weeks when we had our calls. She was on the calls. Oh, there's my insulin pump. Perfect. And so we're very in touch with mental health awareness, mental health healing. My sister, her stepdaughter, is now passed away. She died in 2008. She had severe mental health issues our whole life. She was a heroin addict, and she was an amazing human being with a heart of gold. But again, mental health issues took her away. And so when we talk about mental health, it's not just from some like outsider standpoint.
Yeah, no, we have a lot of experience with that. Pretty much everybody in our family has had some kind of mental health issues.
Personally and professionally, we have extensive experience with mitigating mental health challenges. So my question to you, and I think, if anybody else has questions, that's the thing, like, feel free to ask questions in the comments or anything. This is a fully open forum. But is that, what was your mindset in that situation in the doctor's office when she said, like, what was your mindset? Like, what were your thoughts?
I mean, I can't really say exactly. I mean, it was just so unbelievable at first. I just thought, this is insane. I feel so good. How could I feel so good and have this really terrible thing going on inside? And she told me, she said, the doctor said, this has been growing for several years.
Yeah.
And I will say that the last 6 years of my career, when I had the job location change, it was very, very stressful, and it was a very different environment than what I was used to in my first 12 years that I loved my job. And I still, enjoyed working, and I got to know lots of great people who I hope will see this.
They will. Let me just say too that the real difference, because I like to just get down to the nitty-gritty of things. The difference was that before this, she was working for a human being that was extremely kind, compassionate, loving, caring, and all of these things. And then she went to working for another person who did not, I'll just say it kindly, did not embody really any of those characteristics.
That's very true. It was very, very difficult.
It was a
transition.
And so it was really not even maybe necessarily, I'm sure that there was actual work that you were doing that added to it, but I believe, and you can of course correct me anytime, that it was the person with which you needed to work with that caused the stress, because you didn't feel supported. You didn't feel seen, heard, appreciated, or supported.
That's true. Yeah.
So that's just a lesson for all of us as humans, that no matter what our jobs are, or no matter who we're interacting with, to be kind, be compassionate, be caring, and listen to them and see them and hear them. Because if you're not, if you're doing that unconsciously and you're not treating people that way, I get it. Try and wake up a little bit. But if you're consciously downing people, not appreciating them, or not telling them what their value is, like, to be straight up, you could be contributing to them developing cancer. like let's just put it plainly, right? Like,
so anyway, that's the story. My mindset was, what can we do? And let's do it right away. I wasn't going for a second opinion. I wanted to get started on the treatment. I think I really handled it very well.
Oh my God.
It was very shocking, and I didn't get overwhelmed. Of course, I was not happy about it, but I thought, well, she said that, this treatment is going to
highly successful.
Be successful. Yeah. And, honestly, within like the last maybe 5 years ago, if you got the diagnosis of stage 4 pancreatic cancer, I mean, most people would think it was a death sentence.
I think that most people still do think that it's a death sentence. And that's one of the reasons why we're talking about this, because it really doesn't have to be.
And yeah, if you think it is a death sentence, then it's going to be a death sentence.
That part.
I am 100% sure that it's mind over matter in this situation, all health situations. So I just wanted to keep a positive mindset, and I really don't have a problem with that, because that's just my general nature. I've always been that way. I've never been a worrier or really stressed out, except the work situation. I just take things as they come. I figure if I have a problem, I figure out what to do about it, and I get on it and do
or
it.
She decides that it's not her problem and she leaves it the hell alone.
Yeah.
Because that's, I think, a big problem for a lot of people, is that they see a problem happening, but it's not their problem. And they just keep trying to control other people's problems. and then they make themselves sick over it. So she knows when things aren't her problem.
So yeah, so I started the treatment and had really good results over and over again with the blood count tests for the tumors. It was the amount was decreasing, and then
and the tumors were shrinking, and
are
are shrinking, not were, they still are.
And so then after several months, I guess maybe 6 months,
more, yeah, a little more than
that, the treatment stopped working, and then the test results were going back up, and it was just, the doctor said it wasn't uncommon. This happens sometimes, and you have to change the treatment. And at first I was getting 2 chemo drugs every treatment, and after that we changed the regimen, and now I'm getting 4 chemo drugs every other week. I sit in the chemo chair at the hospital for 5 hours on Tuesday morning.
Every other Tuesday
morning. And then when I'm ready to leave, they hook me up with a pump where I am infused with an additional chemo for the next 2 days until Thursday afternoon, when I have to go back to the hospital to get the pump disconnected. So literally my body is being infused with very, very strong drugs for 3 full days every other week. And then a couple days after it, I don't really feel good. I'm overly tired. I have appetite problems. Medical marijuana helps immensely.
We're going to do a whole other episode on medical marijuana, and not just medical marijuana, but also medical marijuana.
But yeah, I have to say that's a lifesaver, and it just makes things better and easier to tolerate, and not only the appetite issues and the stomach issues, but also mood. So that's a big thing, I think, is very helpful, and I recommend it highly if anybody has any conditions.
She recommends it highly. Sorry, we're very corny.
So anyway, so that's the story. I'm still doing that, and my results are going down again, and
they're the lowest they have been since the diagnosis by far. The C19-9, which is the pancreatic tumor cancer marker, has reduced drastically, and also the tumor has reduced by half its size. Like, so I think it was like 3 centimeters, and now it's like 1 point something centimeters. So everything's actually working. And I just want to say, for me too, so living with diabetes for 30 years, type 1 diabetes for me, and working with, I mean, thousands of people now over the last 11 years in one-on-one group settings, whatever, I think we all know, at least those of us who live with diabetes, there's this stigma, right? There's this idea, and it's fully perpetuated throughout society, through medical, through media, through whatever, that, you know, diabetes is this, and it looks like this, and it presents like this, and these are the symptoms, and these are the way this is the way your life is going to be if you have it. And all of that is so damaging, and it's such bullshit. And the same thing exists for pancreatic cancer, right? Because you're like, oh, that's it. That's the kiss of death. You might as well just make your coffin up right now, because that's what it is. And I'm so grateful that I just don't believe anything except what I know from my heart and my spirit and my connection with the greater spirit, right? Like, not a religious spirit. Like, we're not a religious family, but we're very spiritual, and we're very connected to the divine, and we're very connected to everything that's nature and everything. And we're all in a cyclical pattern, right? Like, nature has cycles where things die out, and then they rebirth, and they die, and we just know that that's the cycle of life, and that humans, we go through so many of these birth, rebirth, death, life cycles throughout our actual incarnation of this body. And I think having that mindset and that knowledge of knowing that this is just another one of the kind of, we're going to go down and then we're going to come back up, has allowed us to do that as a family. Like,
yeah, I mean, I've lived through a lot of very challenging situations, losing my husband and losing my stepdaughter and losing my sister to cancer, and
your husband
and my mother-in-law, and my mother died when I was pregnant with Danielle, which was like a huge issue.
I can't even imagine.
I mean, my whole plan was that she was going to be my caregiver when I wanted to go back to work, and it was going to be all in the family. And my mother was so wonderful. And yeah, that whole thing didn't work out. So, but anyway, it worked out the way it was supposed to work out.
Exactly.
And it's all good. So I think I developed a very, I guess, positive mindset. Even though I endured all these challenges, I just had to just keep on going and, doing the best I can and making life work as well as I can under all these circumstances. So this just added to another. I mean, to be honest with you, at first, my biggest issue was thinking, oh my God, what's it going to be like when I lose my hair? And of course, I know that's a big thing to people, and I've always had long hair and, enjoyed it. And now it's so easy. I don't have to wash my hair. I don't have to do anything with it.
And she gets to wear these fly caps all the time.
Yeah,
Looks like a fortune teller.
Yeah, so, and I can tell people's fortunes now. So anyway, yeah, you just get over that when you think of all the other things that are important.
And I ask you a question about your beliefs. Do you believe that your body loves you?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, I thank my pancreas every day for getting better, and I do visualizations of my white blood cells renewing because they were giving me a terrible medication after every chemo. It was called Neulasta, and it's supposed to be required according to the medical terminology after intensive chemotherapy, because it rebuilds your white blood cells, which when they go down, you're very, very vulnerable to infections and that your immune system is very compromised. And but that particular drug gave me the worst side effects of anything I've ever had. I just can't.
We're pretty sure she was actually allergic to it.
I can't even explain it. It was just not pain. It was just, I felt like I was going to die. And I told the doctor, I said, if I have to keep getting this, I'm not going to be able to continue with this treatment.
Yeah.
And I'm going to see at least what happens to my white blood cells if I don't take it.
So yeah, so we had another discussion with another oncologist, and it wasn't a second opinion. It was actually Dr. Sanjay actually hooked us up with this other oncologist at Penn, Dr. O'Hara, and we talked about the Neulasta, and essentially after we kind of realized that it wasn't 100% necessary, we spoke though very specifically about the visualization and the embodiment and the frequency and the vibration of her own energy, bringing up that white blood cell count to the safe and the red blood cell count to the safe place where she could get the chemo. We took we have pictures, right? We have we have tons of anatomy and physiology books. That's just from my personal training days, and I just love the human body in general. I'm obsessed with it. But we looked at the pancreas. We looked at what white blood cells look like. We saw like where they're produced in the pelvic area. And long story short, and this is about the belief that your body loves you. That's kind of the whole underlying. That's why I asked her that, and that's why this is one of my most sacred and valuable beliefs in life, is that my body loves me. And the only thing that my body and every single cell that's in it is concentrating on is keeping me alive. That's the truth. And so I'm very grateful for that. And if we didn't have that belief, and if you don't have that belief, or you don't begin at least opening up your mind to the possibility that you could believe that, that is a huge factor in unhealthy manifestations. That if you believe your body is out to get you, if you believe your body is your enemy, which is something that I'm very familiar with, particularly having diabetes. And that was one of the things I had to work through, because when one of your organs doesn't work, it's, I believe, a natural thing to be like, oh, wow, my organ like doesn't even want to be in my body. Like it must hate me. Like it doesn't even want to give me insulin. But that's not a true statement. That was part of my grieving. And that's one of the things I teach as a coach, is that you must thank your pancreas. You must tell your pancreas how much you love it. This is diabetes related. It just so happens that the cancer that she got happens to be in the same organ that's my #1 challenge, and that's a whole other story. But either way, you got to love your body. And if you don't tell it that, and you don't visualize the things that you want it to be doing, and you don't believe that you have the power to do those things, that can be a very big hindrance.
And the outcome was that my white blood cells are perfect every time.
Ever since she stopped the Neulasta, she's never had a chemo where her blood cell count was not up to the level where it needed to be or above it to get the chemo without the drug that they say you need to do that.
Yeah. So I am a very big believer in using your mind power. It's the most powerful thing you are. I have found myself feeling like I have more power now than I've ever felt in my life, I guess mentally. I mean, just,
But spiritually too.
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, just, I don't know. I stay in good spirits. I get out and walk as much as I possibly can. The winter was a little tough because it was so cold, but now that the weather's getting better, I actually just came back from 2 days in Ocean City, New Jersey by myself, and I walked on the beach. I walked on the boardwalk. I sat in the sun on the beach, and I had pizza. And as much as I try to eat healthy, I always have to have a
There's
little,
no such thing as perfect. There's
yeah.
only, look, we don't deal in restriction in this family. We don't deal in all or nothing in this dynamic or in my coaching or in the way we speak to other people, because that's not the way life is. Like, so
Yeah.
let's start kind of bringing this to a close, which is kind of like, I don't know what it is. It's well, first of all, about 1 million people love you, people from our past and our present and our future. But I guess maybe like what advice, like what do you wish someone would have told you when you were first diagnosed that would have been super helpful to you, maybe, or something you realized, or what's your best advice for somebody who's living or dealing with cancer, or caregiving for somebody who lives with cancer?
I guess, well, number one, keeping a positive attitude. I know that's difficult. So a lot of research maybe into your condition and learning more about it and finding out what you could possibly do to help yourself, and not always agreeing with everything the doctor says,
Or believing everything you read?
and or believing everything you read. But I have to say I'm so grateful that my doctor is open-minded, and everything that I want to be very involved in my own care, and I have a very strong intuition about my body, and I listen to my body and I do what it asks me to do, and it seems to be working out pretty well. And I guess that's my best advice, is to just go ahead, learn all you can, and parse out the bad information and try to just make the best of it. And
Don't beat yourself up.
oh, absolutely, yeah, you know you
You
can't
got
do
to be
that.
super kind and compassionate to yourself
Yeah.
throughout the process.
Oh, and I mean, the other thing is I'm super grateful that I am retired, and my whole job now is just healing, and I can spend all my time doing that. And I sleep like a hibernating bear. I mean, seriously, I literally sleep 10 to 12 hours every night. Great deep sleep. And I even questioned the doctor about it. Am I sleeping too much? Is that normal? And she said, it's great. It's when your body's healing, and never try to fight it. Anytime your body feels like going to sleep, just go to sleep. So sometimes I'll sleep all that time at night and still take a nap in the afternoon. And whatever my body feels like it needs, I give it. And, same with eating. There's days when I don't feel like eating anything. And then the next week, after my chemo wears off and I have my week off, I go back to my full hearty appetite and gain back the few pounds that I lost the week before. And that's another thing. I get praised every time I go for my treatment, that I've been able to maintain my weight, because the biggest problem with a lot of cancer patients is loss of weight, and really extreme loss of weight. And I've over the whole 18 months, I lost a total of 6 pounds, which is pretty amazing. So yeah, I don't know. I'm just in control of my body to a certain extent, and also
You're in
realizing,
control of the way you think about your body.
yeah.
That's for sure.
And the other thing I learned was, like I said, a few years ago, pancreatic cancer was pretty dire diagnosis, but they have made extreme advances in the treatments of, and that was the thing that we were talking to the Dr. Penn. He's the head of the clinical trial department at Penn, and he's working on some things that might be appropriate for me, and I have to follow up with him shortly to see what's going on with that. And I'm open to that if it sounds like something that makes sense to me. And I always do my own research and my own consideration. And like I said, you just can't always go by what the experts say because they're by the book, and sometimes they just
Sometimes
can't.
your body doesn't want to be by the book
Yeah.
because that's not how life works.
So yeah, and also having Danielle for a caregiver is amazing. She picks up my medical marijuana for me. I don't even have to go to the dispensary, and she comes over to my house every time I have chemo, and she's waiting for me when I get back, and she sleeps overnight with me. We did a whole bedroom in my house, and that would be a good place for her. And she takes care of me hand and foot. She waits on me. She has the most amazing talents. I mean, she's a medical expert. She's a fabulous cook. I'll just sit there and say, make me this. Last week when she was there, I said, oh, I could go for some pancakes, but maybe a strawberry compote to top that. And she just goes in the kitchen and does it. And I have a pretty well-stocked pantry, so it's not difficult to just make stuff.
Sounds like you're trying to marry me off. I'm
No.
happily married.
No, I'm just praising you for all your talents and all the good things that you do for me, and I really appreciate it. And
it's a pleasure.
I'm so grateful that we have the relationship that we have, and that's another thing that's just been lifelong. I mean, we were actually just saying recently, did we ever have a fight in our life?
Let's kind of leave that
for another time.
So for the next one. So we're gonna do this again. I don't know when. Maybe before next week, maybe not, because we actually don't need to be in the same location to do this. Yeah, I can Zoom you in from your house. We just happen to be at my house now.
Oh yeah, we should be together.
Oh, okay. You heard the lady. You heard the lady. She spoke.
I mean, we can do it from my house or your house.
Right. So we're gonna come back, and that's the other thing that we really wanted to talk about, and kind of continue the conversation ongoing about parenting, about the relationship between parents and their children. And because my whole entire life, my relationship with my mother has been the most precious and valuable thing to me, and that I also realized through having lots of friends and interactions with other clients through my career, that what we have is much more rare than it is common. And I want to explore that and give people insights into how we communicate with each other and the boundaries that we have with each other and the values that we have and that we share, so that we can create a common language to have this relationship where we've literally never had a fight. We had one fight, and we'll talk about that on the next episode. But it has to do with body modification. And so, yeah.
On her part.
Yeah, on my part. So I think what I'm going to do is maybe I'll announce that we're doing this. I don't know. I'm going to drop like a link, and if you want to like get on just an email list that I'll drop and say that, hey, we're doing a live, or we did a live and you want to watch the replay, or whatever it is. That's the thing about this. Everything I've ever done in my life and in business has been very structured. This is exactly what it is. But I feel like with this, and I just want to like give a huge shout out to Red Table Talk, because actually before I even thought about us doing this, I never heard of Red Table Talk. So when I started talking to people, because I've been talking to people about my mom and I coming on and chatting about life for months now, and everybody's like, oh, is that like Red Table Talk? I'm like, and then I started listening to it. I'm like, I didn't even know what it was, but yes, it's very much like that, obviously, much lower level of production and like fanciness. But the reality of it is we're just going to have like real conversations about the things in our lives with the hope of inspiring or comforting or holding space for other people to lean into their emotions that they may have with their relationships with other people, their parents, so that you might be able to start having like a new narrative or a new story around what's possible for your ability to relate with the people in your lives. So yeah, thank you for watching. Feel free to leave a comment anytime you're watching this. Lots of people have left comments live, but we'll go back and see and respond later. And if you have any questions, you can feel free to drop them in the comments anytime, and we'll respond. And yeah, just
if anybody has any good ideas for the title of this new series, we're open to accepting information regarding that, because we can't quite figure out.
We haven't figured it out yet. But we're open to it, and we'll get it when we need to. But right now, it's just real talk.
Yeah, I like that, but it's probably.
Oh yeah, there's like probably 1,000 things called real talk. All right. So, any final words for the day?
No, it was great. It was fun. I look forward to doing it again, and I would love to hear comments or, any kind of feedback from people that are watching. And we'll come back and impart more wisdom in the future.
Well, I couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you for watching. Take excellent care of yourself. You deserve to be treated with compassion by, most of all, you. So take good care of yourself, and we will see you on the next live stream. And now I'm going to try and figure out how to stop this camera because I have absolutely no idea how to do it. Look at me. Oh, here we go. All right. Bye, y'all.
Bye.